My dear fellows, be it mineral, vegetable, animal, including Homo sapiens, aliens, and even uh, energetic entities. This is to amplify the scope of people that may be interested in what I have to say. Okay. I am Ferruccio Bilic. I'm going to talk, it's a paper that I present somewhere about innovation management of intellectual capital and measurement and optimization through multi-criteria method. Okay. Innovation management is already interesting, modern thing. Intellectual capital, even more. And how to measure and optimize this process through multi-criteria method. Okay. Okay. This paper presents and applies a model for evaluating intangible assets using a multi-criterion aiding method. The intangible assets specifically analyzed was intellectual capital. Okay, this asset is an intangible which is increasingly gaining in value as a result of the changes brought about in knowledge management. Intellectual capital can be divided into 4 categories: market access, human access, intellectual property asset, and infrastructure asset. Okay, here we are going to present the analytical framework. For a long time, wealth was associated with the possession of physical assets, which were easy for accounting, being expressed in a direct form in the balance sheet and annual financial statement. However, in current society, wealth derives principally and increasingly from intangible intellectual assets. Or in other words, knowledge is becoming the most valuable production factor. Okay. An organization knowledge capital, often referred to as its intellectual capital or intellectual assets, can be identified in its workforce, is the human capital, in customers' demands and preference, its customers' capital, and its systems, products, process, and capability, structural capital. Okay. The value of the knowledge assets of an organization may thus significantly exceed the value of its tangible asset in the market value valuation of organization. Here we are going to present the research methodology. The methodology employed in carrying out the research uses the following steps: bibliographic research, definition of sample of organization based on intellectual capital, development and application of a questionnaire, process of data through the specific multi-criteria decision support software, and analysis of the results. The model. As intellectual capital is a multidimensional asset which is difficult to reduce to a single dimension of the monetary asset type, multi-criteria decision support method can be employed to capture all of its relevant and important dimensions, associate each criterion to one dimension of the problem. On the other hand, the Leclerc family methods seek to eliminate dominated alternatives according to a group of weights assigned to this by the decision maker to each objective of the problem called method of outranking. They are based on the construction of outranking relationship, which incorporated preference established by the decision maker faced to the problem and alternative. Method. When a characteristic is not completely known, as in the case of intellectual capital, or when there are uncertainty as to its behavior, it is possible to obtain information based on the prior knowledge of a specialist on the subject, reflected in the value judgment. In this way, the decision maker establishes relative weights for the criteria and makes an evaluation of each alternative for each criterion. Electro3 is one of the softwares. The decision maker also establishes the limits so that the indices of agreement and disagreement can be validated. The Electro3 method is a decision-aiding instrument known especially for dealing with problems of classification, examining the intrinsic value of each action in order to supply a recommendation which would provide an appropriate optimization for each item of the intellectual capital. The analysis. It was observed that the criteria selected were those customarily found in fact-finding and directly related to the subject of the study, the examination of intellectual capital. The criteria selected were investment in company name or brand, evaluation of financial return, client satisfaction, professional and academic background, level of interaction between sectors, dedication of the human resource to the company, monitoring of new technology, competence management, information system, and continued decision making. Here we have the reference action, with the aim of checking the applicability of the elected tree method and taking into account the organization to be analyzed. The methodology was tested using 5 reference actions defined by B1 to B5 and 3 thresholds: indifference, preference, and veto. The application of the software to the data collected resulted in the value shown in Table 1. Supplying the reference action for the thresholds, these actions defined 6 categories of classification, E1 to E6. Okay. Therefore, this is the threshold, Q, P, and V, indifference, preference, veto. And these are the reference action, B1 to B5. Categories. For the reference action, B1 to B5, the weights attributed to each criteria were considered constant. The 6 categories, E1 to E6, were E1, extremely efficient; E2, very efficient; E3, average efficient; E4, weakly efficient; E5, a little inefficient; and E6, very inefficient. Application of the elected tree method. These are the criteria that we already mentioned: investing company brand, name and brand, evaluation of financial return, and so on and so forth. And these are the weights given to each of these criteria. Criteria 1, investment in company name and brand, and have weight 7. Evaluation of financial return, also weight 7. And these are the weights for each one of these criteria. And the simulation here are from B1 to B5, and these are the values. Results from evaluation for changes in lambda as well as in the thresholds. Here we have thresholds, type A, type B. These are the lambdas that we are going to consider: 01, 07, 08, 095, and 1. And the type 2, 05, 0.5, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and 1. Test L1, the company X and company Y. And we have this combination. Test L2, company X and company Y, we have this kind of combination. The minimum performance for evaluation was C4. Okay? And categories vary from C1 to C6. Simulation for optimizing company X. Here are the criteria, and here are the simulations. Financial return, weight 3. Client satisfaction, weight 2.5. professional academic background, weight 2.5. Interaction of sector 2.5. Dedication of human resource 3, the weight. Monitoring of the S&T 3, also the weight. Investment R&D 3, the weight. Another action 2. And these are the simulations. Here we have S1 to S10, the simulation. And here we have the result. The result of electric were C4. Simulation optimizing company X. Continuing. The simulation X11 to S11 to S simulation 20. These are the result of electric, and these are the index of difficulty. And simulation 17 gives the smallest sum of difficulty. Was 20, okay? Fortunately, my picture is covering the result. Okay, now some conclusion. The research related in this paper proved the pertinence of the applicability of multi-criteria method in the evaluation and measurement of intangible assets, and in particular, intellectual capital, combining the knowledge described and used by the manager or decision maker, and the monitoring of the organizational system, the combination of which leads to a much better management of intangible assets. The research demonstrated, in fact, that if the organization used multi-criteria decision support method to create indicators as in the model, they could manage the intellectual capital of the organization effectively and efficiently in the frequently turbulent environment of the globalized world. The lecture method showed itself to be adapted to the question of evaluation of intellectual capital, and it allowed not only the comparison of previously defined standards, but also the incorporation of a large number of variables in the evaluation process. In this way, the method represented by the context of this research a process of interactive inference, of clustering and disaggregating of parameters, considering the variations of weights and thresholds in the sensitivity analysis and the criteria adopted by the decision maker. This, in turn, can be validated or not by the organization for the definition of a program of optimization aimed at competitive advantage, as they re-evaluate in a dynamic way all of the criteria. Okay? Based on the sensitivity analysis carried out using change in weight and threshold, practically no variation in the result occurred, which denotes the robustness of the method. Okay. Using electric method, it was also possible to check if the performance of each intangible asset was considered satisfactory. In this case, obtaining a result equal to or above the average, as well as to check where the company should invest with the minimum effort to improve its market value. The conclusions of the research consequently permit a vision of new possibilities for the application of the analytical methodology for valorizing intellectual capital. It is worth highlighting the fact that the analysis of the valorization and optimization of intangible assets transcend the ambit of one single area of knowledge. It is to be found in various areas of knowledge, combining methods and concepts which transcend the ambit of decision science, administration, accounting, financial theory, and operational research itself. The theoretical studies of the measurement of the intellectual capital of organizations depend, therefore, on a multi-criteria vision of the organization. Okay. I thank you very much for your attention in this presentation, and if you like it, give your like, and also I would appreciate if you can make your critiques and your suggestion for improvement, and also you can share this knowledge with whoever you want, and for who is not yet registered in my channel, please do so. That is immensely appreciated. Thank you very much for everything.